Hey, John, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you for taking the time to be here, my friend. So thank you.
Well, thanks for having me. And I have to tell you, man, you've got the best name on the planet, Audley. I mean, come on, that was such a natural way for you to come up with Audacious Living as your podcast name. See, my name is John. And so yeah, I can't call it John Podcast because people think it's something you listen to on the toilet.
Well, that could be very comforting for some people. Hey, I mean, you
Whatever.
know, it's time to relax with the John podcast. Say, what better place to be then, right?
We're just shooting the crap, right?
Look at that. You're on a roll now. You're on a roll. You work in marketing, eh? You're a marketing background. I can tell.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stephenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our mission is to empower you to live your best audacious life ever. It's always a pleasure to be here with you, sharing insights and inspiration to help you navigate your unique journey. I truly, truly appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us, and I hope you find the stories and discussions here, I hope they resonate with you and your own experiences. You know, life is like a vast mountain range filled with peaks and valleys. You know, I talk about that often, the hills and valleys of life, and that's what life is like. The challenges we face are like steep climbs. They might seem daunting and insurmountable at times. However, it's during these moments, these climbs, that we discover our true motivation and strength. Each challenge shapes our character, helping us define what success truly means to us. Now, just as every mountain offers a different view from its summit, each story we encounter, our own or those of others, enriches our journey, offering valuable lessons and insights. The power to choose how we respond to these challenges lies within us. By embracing our struggles with an open heart and mind, we can turn obstacles into stepping stones towards our goals. Moreover, inclusivity and collaboration are vital in this process. They enhance our creativity and understanding. When we embrace diverse perspectives, we allow innovation to flourish, leading to richer solutions and deeper connections. Each of us has the potential to inspire others simply by being our authentic selves. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome John Verrico to the show. John is a seasoned public affairs professional with over 42 years of experience, now focusing on empowering others to share their stories through his platform, Share Your Fire. And you hear a lot more about that in just a little bit. He's a motivational speaker himself. He's a coach and co-author of several collaborative books, including the upcoming Art of Connection. John's journey from a government career to a passionate advocate for storytelling exemplifies his belief in the transformative power of sharing our experiences. John's insights into storytelling and motivation are incredibly relevant to today's discussion. His unique perspective on challenges and the importance of choice will resonate with anyone looking to navigate their own life's journeys more intentionally and authentically. So now that we've got you all set, let's turn to our conversation with John. Enjoy. Hey, John, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you for taking the time to be here, my friend. So thank you.
Well, thanks for having me. And I have to tell you, man, you've got the best name on the planet, Audley. I mean, come on, that was such a natural way for you to come up with Audacious Living as your podcast name. See, my name is John. And so yeah, I can't call it John Podcast because people think it's something you listen to on the toilet.
Well, that could be very comforting for some people. Hey, I mean,
Whatever.
it's time to relax with the John podcast. Say, what better place to be then, right?
We're just shooting the crap, right?
Look at that. You're on a roll now. You're on a roll. You work in marketing, eh? You're a marketing background. I can tell.
Yeah, I did 42 years in public affairs.
Makes sense. Shining through. I can see it shining through. Well,
it is
listen.
so funny. It's so horrible to say 42 years, though, man. I mean, it makes me feel like I'm ancient.
It's okay. You know what? I think the more you say it, the more you just accept it. So maybe,
I have to say I'm proud of it. I'm proud I stuck with anything for that length of time. If you think,
and all joking aside, that's a real thing here, John. I mean, I really mean that. Like, to be able to say I did this consistently for this period of time, and no one got rid of me, no one tried. Well, maybe I don't know about the try. Maybe they did try. I don't know, but they didn't. They weren't successful in getting rid of me. I suck it out. I didn't quit. Like, there's a lot to be said about doing something for a long time. So I give you credit.
Absolutely. I give my wife that credit too. She's put up with me for 40 years. So
Hey, 40 is obviously your number. Very good. Well, look, I appreciate you being here, and I hopefully you'll stick out with me at least, maybe not 40 years in this conversation, but for a little while.
Maybe 40 minutes.
Well, we can aim for that and start there and see what happens. Better than 4 minutes. But what I wanted is, first I'll say, again, welcome to the podcast. We spend, a lot of time on this platform, really encouraging individuals to sort of live their best audacious life. And when you really think about that, it's such an individualized path, right? We're all on our own sort of journey, and along that way, we're going to have our own challenges, our own obstacles, our own detours, our pitfalls, whatever. But the thing to keep in mind is those still are our own because they are on our path. The other thing that really we try to encourage as much as possible, how important it is to continue to push through those things to get to the other side, because on the other side is typically where the greatness lies, right? The things that you work the hardest to get through, on the other side, it's where the successes and rewards, if you will. And that, and sometimes the thing called motivation that'll help us get through these challenging points. And that motivation come in different forms. It could be from ourselves, it could be from others, or it can be from stories of yesteryear, of something that drives you. And I'm going to use coin one of the terms I use, or that inner torch lights your path, and off you go. And so I know I've said a whole lot here, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to invite you in, give you an opportunity to have our listeners hear from you, the work you do, and what's got you to the point that you're at now.
Man, I have no idea. It's challenges, really. I mean, if you think about it, the challenges are what make us. The challenges are what help us to define our success. The challenges are what would get our motivational torch fired up. And I talk about the motivational torch. It's that, that fire, that passion that burns inside of us that keeps us going, that helps us to decide what it is we want to go for. As we go through life, there's different things that will be attractive to us at different times. At some point we're striving for a job, or for you want a car, or you want a house, or you want family, whatever it is that you're striving for at different points in your life, that will change.
Yes.
But what sparks your desire to go for those things in the first place? And that's probably the most important thing. What is your why? What makes you do what you do? And you mentioned, it could be inspiration from other folks, from things you've heard, things you've read, things you've experienced. But at the same time, it comes down to internally, we make our own choices, right? The things that we encounter, the people that we meet, the voices in our head, all of those things that we come across in our life, the things that tell us that we have the capability to do something, and the things that hold us back. Those are all our individual choices of what we choose to believe and what behaviors we choose to emulate.
Well, and I will tell you, that choice word is a big one. Like we absolutely do have the choice. Even going back to, we talk about this podcast, the choice to be audacious, that's the choice. And so when you line that up, right, and you go, this is what I'm choosing to do, then you're able to see, okay, this action, is that in line with what I want to be or how I want to live, right? So that sort of ties back into you talking about defining the why, right? If it's clear, okay, this is what I want to do, here's the direction. If these things aren't in line with who I want to be, what I'm trying to do, then you got to ask yourself, well, why am I doing it? Or is this necessary to do? Or should I be doing it, right? So that I think that's how it all ties in. But really, it's a choice to choose. We have the choice to choose. And I think it's incumbent on us to make those choices consciously on a daily basis.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there are so many things that go on around us, and we can choose to let things happen to us. And we can't always decide what's going to happen to us, but we do have the power to choose how we respond to it, how we react to it, how we let those things affect us.
Yeah.
I've always said that we cannot choose the way other people treat us.
Okay.
We cannot always have an impact on the things that happen to us. Your car will break down at some point.
Sure.
The weather is going to be horrible at some point. There's an ancient saying, and I think it's Chinese in nature. I think that's where it came from. But basically, the concept is that if you live long enough, everything will happen to you. Right?
I've heard that before, yes.
Yeah, right. So at some point in your life, things will be good, sometimes not so good. So you'll have money, you'll need money, you'll be hungry, you'll be full, whatever it is. And you don't know what's going on in other people's lives, at any given time. So in some chapter of your life, you may be the hero of the story. In another chapter of your life, you may be the victim. And in yet a whole other aspect of your life, you might be the villain.
That's right.
In somebody else's story.
That's right.
And sometimes you don't even know you are.
That's exactly it. And I think it's so important. So I oftentimes talk about the hills and valleys of life. That's my famous analogy I talk about all the time. Regular listeners of this podcast are gagging right now because he's talking about the hills and valleys again. But it's so relevant because what happens is, on the top of the hill, life is great. That's where you have excitement and happiness and joy and fulfillment and satisfaction, and where everyone's partying and having a great time because top of the hill is where to be. But as life goes, it's a continuum. And so eventually that hill becomes a valley, or it goes down and you're in a valley. And in the valley, it's kind of painful. It hurts. There's disappointments. It sucks. Don't want to be there. It's all the negative things that you want to experience in life that happens in the valley. Now, in that valley, you have a choice. Do I stay here and be miserable, knowing this is painful, knowing I don't like it, or find a way to get back on top of the hill as quickly as you can, where you can celebrate? And I really truly believe, John, that if you keep that in mind as like an analogy for life, you'll recognize, to your point, that things will come and they'll go. Right? There'll be feast or there'll be famine one day, right? But you're understanding that's part of that continuum of our life, and that things don't stay bad forever.
So I like your hills and valleys.
Okay.
And I'm going to take that a step beyond.
Please.
And I'm going to take that onto a roller coaster.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. And you think about that, right? You take that long, arduous climb up to the top. You get up there at the top, and then you come over the crest.
Yeah.
And it's like, whee!
That's right.
It's that swoop down, down to the valley. But as you're swooping down, it is terrifying and could be exhilarating at the same time. Right? But you're terrified to go down there into the bottom. But you know what? When you get down to the bottom, you have now gained so much momentum from that downhill sweep that it makes that next hill easier to climb.
It's true. It's absolutely true. And exhilarating, exciting too.
Because the roller coaster doesn't stay down in that valley.
It doesn't.
It swoops back up and climbs up the next hill and the next hill and the next hill. And the whole thing is one big fun, crazy ride. Right? And sometimes those valleys are ugly. You can, look, life is going to deal you crap. And sometimes, you have a choice. Again, back to that word, right? You have a choice. You can wallow in the stench, or you can turn it into fertilizer, right? So use that valley, use that momentum to kick your butt right back up again.
That's right. That's right. See, the where people get themselves into problems is they let themselves stay down, right? And it becomes woe is me. And so I love it when people tell their stories of challenges. So first of all, I love just storytelling in general. I love storytelling. I love hearing stories. I love telling stories. I think it's great. They're great. It helps us in terms of how we make sense of the world. It helps us, and see our place in the world. And we do that through stories. And we all do it, right? This morning this guy cut me off, and I went to the coffee shop today. The girl gave me an extra cookie. Like all this stuff, right? Like these are things about how we tell stories. But the part about the story,
go back to the earliest part of our civilization, right? That's how we learned.
Yes, absolutely. We taught each other.
We drew on the cave walls.
Absolutely,
we sat around the fire and told stories and spread the lure.
Absolutely right, and that's how they learn and pass down generational knowledge and history and all that kind of stuff. And so for me, what I really, really appreciate is the parts of the stories that people choose to tell, right? So I can tell you,
or the version of the story.
Yeah. But where I was going specifically is, okay, so I had this bad thing happen to me, right? For some people, that's where the story ends, right? For others, I had this bad thing happening, but guess what I did to get out of it? I did this, I had the help from here, so-and-so did this, and all of a sudden it becomes a totally different story. The focus isn't on what happened to you, it's what you did. And that's where we can get the motivation from, because you can now inspire people. Because John, I will tell you something. It's so easy to think that when you're going through whatever problem that you're going through, that nobody on the planet has any idea what you're facing. They got no clue. It's me by myself on an island. It's the worst thing that could ever happen to me. But then all of a sudden, when you hear someone says, oh yeah, that was last week, and here's what I did. That's empowering. Yes. It's super empowering. And so that's why I'm a big fan of stories.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And everything's about stories. And that's actually where Share Your Fire comes from, right? It's helping people learn how to tell their story, help people find what their story is, right? Understand where their why comes from, and then spread that, And so I said I worked in public affairs for 42 years. Mm-hmm. I worked of god-awful places in the government, right? Sharing stories. And one of the things that I absolutely refused to do was get involved in the politics of government. I didn't spread political rhetoric. I didn't spread administrative, policies. I focus on the everyday work of the government employees, yes. Right? Whether it was a park ranger, an engineer, whoever it was, those were the stories that I helped people to tell. Because I found out two things. Number one, when you tell the story and people get a better understanding for who you are, what you do, then they start to have a better appreciation. The second part of that is when you tell your story and you realize that story has significance for somebody else, yes. You start to build that little bit of pride inside of yourself. And guess what? You know what? Now you're doing a better job. Now you're putting more into it. You've got more drive, more connection to it, right? More ownership of what it is that you do, because now you can take some more pride in it.
Yeah. So you went through a 42 career in the government telling stories. Yeah, you stopped and you decided to keep going. Is that how it played itself out?
Yes and no. So I've been telling stories, for, pretty much all my life. But I started working with people on the side and became a speaker and a coach outside of my government job about 25 years ago. So there was overlap. And I realized that was what I enjoyed doing more than anything else, is helping people to find their story and to spread that. And so finally, I got to the age where it was time to retire from the government, which was a good thing to do. And I started doing it more on my own. So Share Your Fire has actually been around for a while now, but now that's my principal focus.
Gotcha.
Unrestrained.
There we go.
From the tether of the daily government job. And now when I'm going to speak to a group, I don't have to go to the ethics lawyers and go, "Mother, may I?"
Or sign a conflict of interest or that kind of stuff.
You got it. You know exactly.
I do. I've actually got a 30-year career in government, so I understand exactly.
So there you know.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
We have to have a whole side conversation on that one.
Man, we do. The analogy of the fire and torch, I think, is just beautiful. How did you land on that?
You're gonna laugh.
Okay.
I got to go back. I have to tell now my story. Okay. I was an undersized kid in school.
Okay.
When I graduated high school at the age of 18, I was only 5'3", weighed 110 pounds.
Okay.
I was the little pipsqueak in school. I got picked on by bullies all the
Mm.
time. I found my inspiration and my strength. A lot of people read comic books. I read comic books, sure. But I knew that I wasn't going to get bit by a radioactive spider or, nothing. I wasn't going to get a superpower. Those things really weren't real. But I used to watch monster movies all the time.
Okay.
And in the monster movies, no matter how big and bad and nasty the monster was, the little guy wound up winning in the end.
Yes.
Whether it was through, being innovative, building teams, whatever it was, there was always a way out of it. And one of the principal weapons that was used against the monsters was a torch.
Mm.
Now, a lot of people think it was the fire. And it's not the fire and the heat of the torch. The real weapon, the real strength comes from the light the torch emits. Because evil can't exist in the bright light. The things that we fear are the things that are in darkness, things that we don't understand, things that give the bad guys the opportunity to take advantage of the darkness and to do those things that they want to do, but they can't operate in the brightness of light. So now, if you've got a torch, there's that much light.
Yes.
But now somebody else has got a torch and they add to that light. And so the whole concept is that we get a lot of people together that are burning bright with their motivation and bring their light together. And all of a sudden we've got enough light to banish the monsters altogether. And that's where it came from.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful.
As I left the bullying environment of school and I got into the bullying environment in the workplace, because yes, that happens, I was just determined to not let that happen anymore.
Right.
And especially when I saw somebody else being the underdog, being the person who was being most impacted by the bullying behavior, I did what I could to help make them shine. And that's why I didn't do the politics side of the government, but I focused on the everyday average employee and the work that they were doing and helped to get them the opportunity to get their torch burned and to like their light shine.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the main things I've always said too is that you don't have to blow out my candle to make yours burn brighter.
No.
It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be the only shining light. And when we work together and we both have our light going, right? You take my light over here and you add that to your light over there.
Yeah.
And look at that.
Two lights.
It's so much brighter. And I did some cheesy dad magic for anybody.
I was going to say, I didn't see magician on the list on the menu options.
So anybody watching the video version of this, yeah, that was the cheesy dad magic.
No problem. No, it totally worked. But but the message, John, it definitely hits home. Two lights together can make the world brighter. And the part that I really love about this is the light that we have. So again, I talked off the top of our own audacious path. The light is ours, and so how I shine may be very, very different than how you shine, right? And but the thing that makes it so special is I'm using my natural given abilities and my skills. That's where my shine comes. So when you live in your truth of who you are, you will become brighter, right?
Beautiful.
You'll become brighter. And that is how you shine. So I'm shining my light, you're shining yours. We're essentially living our authentic truth, being true to ourselves. And that is where the positive ripple effect. I'll tell you another story that I'm sure listeners have heard this a few times. Maybe not as sick as the hills and valleys, but they've heard this one as well too. A friend of mine, she is an accountant, corporate accountant. Went to school for many, many years, studied it, working in the field, making good money, doing her job. Not totally happy, but doing the job. One day we were talking and she was sort of just sharing about wanting to do something different, not being totally fulfilled and satisfied. And she proceeded to share a story of someone that she had heard about. So again, didn't know this person, but had heard about this person. And this individual was also a corporate accountant, had spent many, many years in a corporate field, but then decided one day that she was going to shift her focus and move in the not-for-profit small business space. Found more satisfaction, fulfillment, helping people, really helping people, and off she went. Quit her corporate gig, moved to this new space, loving life, and she's happy and fulfilled. My friend found inspiration in hearing this person's story. Now, this person didn't quit her job and tell everyone, hey guys, do what I did. She didn't do that. She was being her true, authentic self, being true to what she loved and believed in, and followed that passion. My friend gravitated to that. So that's my point. If you're being who you are, you can inspire people. Because this person has no idea who my friend is, nor does this person know that I'm sharing this story on my podcast. She's got no idea. Clueless.
Right,
We're all
right.
talking about her. She could be even listening and don't even know that she's the subject of the topic, right? But the point though is really about living, being who you are, being true to yourself, and that will do all the work. That will do all the work. People will be, you can inspire those just by being the person you're meant to be.
That's so true, and it's the individuality and our differences that make the whole thing work.
Right.
So, one of the things that, and I mentioned differences in a couple of different ways. The biggest problem that we have in society is that people focus on what's different about each other.
Yes. And,
Right?
and that becomes a bad thing.
Yes. Yes. You look at somebody's difference as something bad because it's not what you are.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
so I go back to, my earliest things about perception. And when you're walking down the street and it's a narrow sidewalk and there's somebody walking towards you, in just 3 seconds, you're going to make an internal decision of whether you're going to step to the side and let them go past, if you're going to maintain your course and make them go around you, or if you're going to cross the street and avoid them altogether. And you've made that decision based on what you see and the differences you saw in yourselves, whether that difference is their color, their dress, their demeanor, whatever it is. You have made a rapid decision, not rational, a rapid decision based on the differences you saw. Now, you take that same individual that you maybe avoided, and maybe you're sitting next to each other at a ball game. You've got something in common. You're both fans of the same team.
Yes.
You both live in the same town.
Yep.
You both frequent the same restaurants. You both have spouses or children, whatever it is. If we start looking at each other for the things that we have in common with each other,
Yep.
then we start realizing how similar we all are.
Yes.
And then we appreciate the things that are different about that person and what they bring to the table, and how that changes the flavor. Right? I mean, in a soup, you've got a lot of different ingredients in order to make the big flavor, right?
You do.
But if there's nothing in that soup but chicken, there's nothing there, right? You've got to have, the carrots and the celery and all those different things. Like everything, all the spices, everything brings its own little piece and adds to the flavor. And I use a soup analogy instead of, grandma's gravy, because people don't understand tomato sauce, the Italian family and all the things that go into that, they just think it can open it. A lot of people think you just open a jar of ragu and that's it.
We're good. It's a bit more than that.
No, it's got to sit on that back burner for 4 to 6 hours, man.
Well, the thing about it, I think you're absolutely correct. And with respect to just, the and really what you're speaking is the diversity, right? Like the diversity is a thing that I really believe is something that ought to be celebrated, because if you can celebrate the differences, and accepting it, and also, I mean, diversity and inclusion work hand in hand. But if you're celebrating the diversity and finding ways to include them into your regular operation, you're now allowing yourself to have greater viewpoints. You're allowing for more creativity. It's far more dynamic. is not the same chicken soup with just chicken and nothing else in it. Like you're now really you're opening up an opportunity to create something wonderful, right? And again, that can't happen unless you're looking at, well, all the things wrong with he's got hair, I got no hair, so he's not a good guy. Like that's got nothing to do with anything, right? And sometimes if you stop and look at it, like it's got nothing to do with anything except whatever was formed in our mind. And who's to say that, what goes on in our heads are always right anyways? Because it's not. We know this.
Oh, definitely not. Why do people always go to the hair thing, right?
See, it's an easy one, John. I gotta tell you, it's an easy one. I'm bald, you're not. It's easy. It's right there.
I have to say, my dad left me, my inheritance from dad was a good head of hair and high cholesterol. Like I could have used some cash because I could have bought a rug.
That'd have been nice. That'd have been a bonus.
I know.
Well, I sort of looked into my future and saw his hairline, and I realized that maybe it's best if I was proactive, and so I shaved early.
It looks great, man. Hey, at least you got a nice smooth head, right? It's not like you got this bumpy head.
You're right. No, there's lots of life to be appreciative, John, and a smooth head is one of them. I totally am. You really help people develop sort of like improve the relationships, and whether they're like in our professional world or in our personal life. There's some time that you spend really helping people improve that and bring those to the higher level, if you will. Could you talk about some of the things that you do and how you do that with people?
Mostly I work on people's communication skill and how they interact with each other.
Yeah, that's a big one. I think that's, I'm sorry to cut you. I think that's something that's overlooked, how significant and important that is.
Oh yeah, and it comes down to everything from word choice and demeanor, but mostly understanding the perspective of the person you're speaking with. Right? What do they know already? What do they think they know that's wrong? What do they think they know that's right? What is their attitude towards what it is that you're trying to communicate? How can you help them? And I'll use some government examples for that.
Okay.
I was working with an organization that was doing some testing of security equipment. One of the things that they were testing was sensors that would be in the subway systems to determine if there was chemical or biological contaminants. And people were freaking out because they were like, "Oh my God, the government is releasing, dangerous microbes into the subway. They're trying to kill us all, And we had to get it to a level that people can understand what it was that was happening. And so it actually came down to saying, look, we're not putting, dangerous bacteria in the air, in the subway. Why would we do something like that? We're here to test the sensors to see if they can detect bacteria. And what we're putting in the air is kind of like throwing a bunch of yogurt up in the air, except it's less messy. And by putting it into something that people can understand, it can allay the fears.
Yes, it can.
Now, in another whole episode, I was working with an organization that was environmental focus, and there was a microbe in the Chesapeake Bay that was causing fish kills.
Okay.
And people were terrified, and the commercial fishermen were terrified because they whatever fish they could catch, had these nasty sores on them and stuff, and people were very worried about the seafood and what they can eat and all that other stuff. So the scientists in this organization are studying this microbe and trying to understand it, and it was a unique creature. They had not seen this before, certainly not in this part of the world, and they're starting to understand that this was normally an algae-eating microbe that's ever present. But at some point, this microbe can decide that it needs a new nutrient, right? So like our body says, man, I need some more magnesium because my legs are hurting, right? Whatever it is, right? So this thing can self-diagnose and figure out what nutrient it needs. Well, that nutrient, in order to get it, they have to change their form, and they can't eat algae anymore. So they change their form And first they release a pheromone into the water.
Okay.
When they do that, it causes fish to stress. When the fish stress, they release a pheromone, which is a trigger for the microbe. That trigger is exactly the chemical compound it needs to change its form from an algae eater to a flesh eater. And now, this thing that eats algae normally is now eating the fish.
Oh,
And in
okay.
doing that, it's getting this new nutrient that it needed. So it's usually short-lived in this stage. It usually
Right.
could go for a few months, though. The problem is obviously this is a freaky thing. Let's face it. All right. Here's this crazy little microbe that suddenly decides it doesn't want to be a vegetarian anymore.
It's changed
It changes it. So it changes its environment and everything else to be able to become this carnivorous creature.
Right.
And it's scary as crap.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
so the scientists, though, were amazed at the capability of this thing because I've only touched on a tiny bit about this little microbe. It actually has 24 different stages it can change between.
Okay.
It's kind of crazy. But anyway, the scientists were amazed by this thing. And so they kept referring to this microbe as amazing and remarkable and all of these normally positive terms.
Right.
And they're doing this in public interviews and they're freaking people out because
like
the
what we're
public
talking
is just
about.
worried about whether or not they can eat fish or they can go near
Yeah.
the water.
Yeah.
And here these guys are saying, this is really an amazing thing. Well, that's great. What are you doing? Are you helping this thing to survive? Do you care about us? And just it's complete disconnect because not
Yes.
understanding where the fears were coming from,
Right.
not understanding who it was that they're talking to.
Wow. Well, and so that really ties into the messaging around what you're communicating, how you're communicating it, who you're talking to. So knowing your audience,
Complete awareness.
all of those things, right? And you can totally butcher a message, right? Or deliver a beautiful message with the right understanding of the who, what, where, whys, right? Those things are relevant. And something that I don't know we oftentimes think about, or enough about, I should say.
Well, a lot of times things just spew out of our mouth without our thinking about it at all. And like, oops.
Oh, I should have revisited that. No.
Oh, right. And now you ruined a relationship for life because of one stupid statement.
So being cognizant of what you're doing. And again, it's so funny because we can go back to that previous conversation we had about diversity and inclusion, right? Like, so if you're being inclusive and understanding that there's diverse viewpoints out there and diverse perspectives out there, the messages that you're crafting can be better, would better resonate because though you're speaking the language of those that you're speaking to.
Right. Exactly. And and you know what? Everyone is deserving of that level of respect. That level of care in how you communicate and how you treat them. And that is something actually that I truly got from my father, besides the a head of hair and high cholesterol. Dad was a blue collar guy. He worked hard his whole life, and when things when one kind of a job ran out of work, he'd find something else to do. If he so he learned how to do woodworking so he can do carpentry. He learned
Nice.
He had to leave school at the age of 13.
Nice.
Because his father passed away.
Right.
And so Dad was all about whatever it takes. And so he used to tell us all the time, because I prefer you stay in school. If you don't, I understand, but I prefer you stay in school.
Yep.
But whatever happens, learn something new every day. Just keep learning and be accepting and try things.
Yes.
Don't tell me you don't like that food until you've tasted it. Don't tell me you don't like to do this thing unless you've tried it. Don't tell me you don't want to go there unless you've been there and found a reason not to go back. And the most important lesson of all of it was, don't say you don't like that person until you've given them a chance.
Sounds like you're describing audaciousness if I didn't know better. But you are correct. And those are all certainly things that I agree with wholeheartedly. John, this has been awesome. I really have appreciated this dialogue. I think this conversation again is bang on with what we want to continually encourage here on this podcast. I really appreciate your contributions. For listeners that wanted to learn more about you or connect with you directly, where can we send them?
Well, it's not like I'm hiding. I'm all over social media. Well, I shouldn't say that because there's some platforms I'm not on TikTok.
Okay.
But I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on.
Wasn't
Facebook.
that banned, by the way? Wasn't TikTok banned? I don't know. Was that?
I don't know. Who knows? They keep changing their mind every 15 seconds, The only thing that we know is for sure that got banned was diversity, equity, and inclusion.
There we go.
Well, don't even start me on that whole thing. But no, in all seriousness, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook under John Verrico Speaks. I'm still on the platform formerly known as Twitter, but I'm moving over to Blue Sky.
Okay.
I'm on Instagram. I've got a website, johnverrico.com.
There we go. You're accessible. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. You can.
But we certainly will make sure that the show notes will have those details so listeners can connect with you directly. Again, this is.
Can I throw out just one more thing, if I may,
Totally.
Really quick? So among being a speaker and coach, which is principally what I do, I've also been doing a lot of writing. I don't have a book out of my own.
Okay.
But there's another international bestseller that series that I've been part of. Actually, I've been part of several of them where I write chapters or a book.
Yep.
There's a book coming out in early February called The Art of Connection, 365 Days of Abundance Quotes. I'm listed as the co-author in that book. I'm contributed to it. It's a great series. Check it out. I think it'll be like $1.99 on the Kindle store, for the first launch.
Great.
But definitely check it out. The Art of Connection book series is probably the most influential book series since Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Got you.
There's a lot of great stuff in there. There's contributions from people from all walks of life, from all over the world, who've contributed their version or their vision of what abundance is. And previous editions of the book, like the 2024 book, was on gratitude.
Got you.
So check them out. I don't get any royalties from these books, but I do want to encourage.
It's a blessing to be a part of, John. It's a blessing to be a part of.
Get your copy of Abundance Quotes and learn about what abundance is all about.
Well, John, I have abundance of appreciation for you being here, and I want to thank you again for taking the time, for sharing the insights, the laughter, but more importantly, thank you for being a guest on the Audacious Living Podcast.
Thanks for having me. I loved it.
Back we are here on the podcast, and much thanks and appreciation goes out to John for a very, very fun conversation. During our chat, John shared how challenges are not just obstacles, they're opportunities that mold our motivations and define our path to success. He emphasized the critical role of storytelling in understanding our journeys, and as he put it, your story is significant to someone else. This notion stuck a chord with me, and it highlights that our experiences, both good and bad, can serve as beacons of inspiration for others. John also reminded us that we have the power to choose how we respond to the challenges life throws our way. This choice shapes not only our lives, but also the lives of others around us. What I personally loved about our interview was John's authenticity. It was a lot of fun, like I said. His passion for helping others ignite their inner fire is contagious, and his belief that we can all shine brighter together truly resonates with me. I encourage you to connect with John directly, and you can find him on LinkedIn and Facebook under the John Verrico Speaks, or visit his website at johnverrico.com, where you can learn more about his work as well as his insights. Be sure to check out the show notes for all the details, and of course his book the collaborative book that he's a part of, The Art of Connection. John, again, he's contributed valuable chapters and abundance of storytelling, and it's definitely worth checking out. It's a fantastic resource to enrich your understanding of connection and motivation. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Audacious Living Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's discussion today, please like, follow, subscribe, and share this podcast with your friends and your family. Your support helps us grow and reach even more listeners who are eager to live their audacious lives. Until next time, keep shining bright and embrace every challenge on your way. Be safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stephenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.